Do you know what reaction will make someone who humiliated you regret it the most? It's not a bitter retaliation. It's not yelling in front of a crowd, nor is it a long speech proving them wrong and you right. In fact, those who try to humiliate others are usually prepared for all those reactions. What they don't prepare for is your composure, because the moment you don't react according to their expected script, their entire sense of victory begins to vanish. Think about it. Why would someone deliberately humiliate you in front of others? Is it because they want to uncover the truth? Almost certainly not. Is it because they want to help you grow? That's also rare. Most of the time, the goal is simply to create a feeling. They want to see you flustered. They want to see you lose control. They want to see you blush, become flustered, or get angry. In other words, they're not really targeting your honor. They are hunting for your emotional reaction. The funny thing is, many people inadvertently give them exactly what they want. They immediately get angry. They raise their voices. They try to retaliate on the spot, and then the conversation turns into a contest to see who loses their temper first. In that moment, no one cares who is right or wrong anymore. Everyone only sees two people arguing. That's what many victims later regret. They don't regret defending themselves. They regret letting their emotions control how they react. Stoic people understand one very simple thing. Your honor cannot be taken away just because one person decides to say something bad about you. They can insult you, they can mock you, they can try to belittle you in front of a crowd, but they cannot decide your value unless you agree to give them that power. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that what hurts us isn't the event itself, but how we interpret it. It sounds philosophical, but try applying it to reality. If a stranger online calls you a failure, does that actually make you a failure? Of course not. But if you spend a week thinking about that statement, you've inadvertently allowed a complete stranger to rent a room in your mind for free. There's something quite interesting in psychology. People who frequently humiliate others rarely do so to those they believe they can't control. They often choose those who are easily reactive, easily feel guilty, or are overly concerned with what others think. That's why the strongest first reaction isn't a sharp retort. It's calmness. Not the kind of calmness that tries to appear cool, but the calmness that comes from understanding that not every insult is worth your energy. Perhaps you've encountered someone who enjoys making fun of others at gatherings. They'll utter a sarcastic remark, then look around to see how people react. If you get angry, they'll laugh and say, "Just kidding. Why are you so upset?" If you're upset, they'll say you're too sensitive. But if you calmly smile and continue the conversation as if nothing happened, suddenly their joke loses its effect. It's like a comedian finishing a story only to have the entire audience fall silent. Without laughter, the performance is over. That's something many people don't realize. The person trying to humiliate you isn't as strong as you think. They're strong because of the reactions you provide. And when you stop providing that, their advantage gradually disappears. Therefore, the first reaction that will make someone regret it isn't defeating them in the argument. It's refusing to let them dictate your emotional state. But calmness is only the first reaction. The second reaction is even more annoying to the person who humiliated you. It's about not feeling obligated to prove anything. This is the trap that many people accidentally step into. After being looked down upon, they work like crazy just to show the other person how good they are. They try to make more money, try to achieve more, try to build a more perfect image. On the surface, it seems like a positive dynamic. But if that motivation only comes from wanting another person to regret, then they are still controlling your life, just in a more subtle way. Stoics don't build their lives to answer those who look down on them. They build a life for themselves. That's a huge difference. When you stop living to prove, you start living to grow. And the interesting thing is that it is then that your success is truly meaningful. The third reaction is to let time speak for emotions. There is a great saying, "Don't argue with someone who is determined to misunderstand you, because there are people who are not lacking in information. They just lack the desire to see the truth. If you continue to explain, they will continue to interpret in their favor, like pouring water into an upside-down cup. The harder you try, the more the water just flows out. This is the reason why many successful people often do not return to retaliate against those who once ridiculed them. It's not because they forgot. They just realize that time is a more convincing answer than any argument. Today, people may laugh at your dreams, but if you are persistent enough, a few years later, the results will speak for themselves. No explanation needed. No need to justify. No need for a lengthy speech. The fourth reaction is to learn to smile at invalid insults. This does not mean you accept being bullied. It just means you're alert enough to distinguish between suggestions worth listening to and what's just noise. If a person with good character points out your weaknesses, be grateful because it's an opportunity to grow. But if a person just wants to put you down to feel bigger, then their opinion doesn't deserve to be a burden on your mind. There is a very interesting paradox. The more clearly a person understands their own value, the less they will be swayed by the evaluation of others. Meanwhile, people who always doubt themselves are easily hurt by just an idle statement. That's why the most important job isn't making the world respect you. The most important job is to build a self-esteem strong enough that the world cannot easily shake you. And finally, the strongest reaction. Continue living well, not to make others jealous, not for them to regret, but because your life is worth it. There is a truth that many people realize too late. The person who humiliated you will probably forget the story in just a few days. But if you keep holding on to anger, you're the one who will have to carry it with you for years to come. Forgiveness is not always for others. Sometimes, forgiveness is a way to free yourself from a memory that has lost its value. The funny thing is that the person who tried to embarrass you often expects you to stay stuck in that moment. They don't expect that one day you will calmly repeat the story without feeling pain anymore. They don't expect that you will grow from that experience. And they don't expect that what was once used to defeat you will become a lesson to help you become stronger. Finally, the 5 reactions that make someone regretful after humiliating you are not 5 ways to get even. Those are 5 ways to protect your own dignity. Because the greatest victory is not making the person who once looked down on you bow their head. The biggest victory is that one day you look back and realize that the insults of the past are no longer enough to determine who you are today. And perhaps the most ponderous question is, what makes you stronger is truly defeating those who have put you down? Or is it the moment you no longer need their validation to know that you are inherently valuable?